Staying on Sports Central, we go over our 2022 college football predictions for the Tennessee Volunteers, team that went 7-6 overall in the 2021 season. Not a bad season for Tennessee, but how will this team be in 2022? And why I think this team could potentially be a dark horse SEC contender next season is what we go over here today. We'll be analyzing this team and predicting their schedule game by game in this video, starting out with their team trends. Tennessee 7-6 last season. They're 4-2 in their first 6 games, 3-4 in their last 7. So this is a team that, they started the season with winning 4 of their first 6, and they ended up winning only 3 of their last 7. So you took a couple of tough losses down the stretch, but once again, not a bad season for this team. They kept it close against Pitt, which turns out Pittsburgh was the ACC champion last season. So that was a close game there too. 34-41 was the final score. Beat Missouri on the road 62-24, scored 60 points in that one. Beat South Carolina 45-20, lost to Ole Miss 26-31. Turns out Ole Miss was a really good team last season, one of the top teams in the SEC. Beat Kentucky, who was one of the top teams in the SEC, on the road 45-42, and lost to Purdue in their bowl game 45-48. So it was a high-scoring shootout against Purdue. And Boilermakers last season, that was just a great season for them. They definitely deserved to win that bowl game in the end, because Purdue coming out of nowhere, and they were the big upset team, the big dark horse team of the nation last season. They were able to upset some really good teams last season, and Purdue in the end got the best at Tennessee, but the Vols didn't go out without a fight. So, but looking forward to 2022 now, looking at your roster going to next season. Hendon Hooker's coming back, the starting quarterback for this team last season, which Hendon Hooker last season, he quietly had a really good season for the Vols. He put up nearly 3,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, 3 picks, and a 68% completion rate. Those are some excellent stats out of Hendon Hooker, and he definitely did not get much recognition for that, but he was a great quarterback last season. He also rushed for over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's a guy that's really flying under the radar going to next season, and he is a name that you want to keep. You want to keep an eye on Hendon Hooker going into next season, because I feel like he's a player that could. He had a breakout season in 2021. He could be even better in 2022. He's only progressed over the course of his career in college. At Virginia Tech, of course, he was the Virginia Tech transfer going into 2021, and his expectations were pretty low going into 2021 because he was pretty underwhelming at Virginia Tech when he played there pretty consistently during 2019 and 2020. So 2021 was a huge jump, his best season to date easily. And going into 2022, he's a guy to really keep an eye on going into next season, because he could be even better. And he's a dual threat quarterback. His passing stats were outstanding last season, but he's also a rushing quarterback. He knows. He's definitely a top half quarterback in the SEC, and definitely deserves a lot more recognition for what he's done. But looking in the backfield, Jabari Small's coming back, top running back for this team last season. He's also a name to keep an eye on. He put up over 870 yards, 9 touchdowns last season. Tion Evans is transferring out, the second running back for this team last year. He put up nearly 600 yards, so you do lose him, but at least you bring back Jabari Small, who definitely is definitely a really good player, very talented. Jalen Wright is also a guy to keep an eye on, who put up nearly 400 or over 400 yards last season and 4 touchdowns. So backfield looks just fine. Hendon Hooker is already a top rusher on this team, and you got Jabari Small and Jalen Wright coming back. Cedric Tillman last season definitely had a great year, over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. He's coming back, but you do lose your second and third receivers, Velus Jones Jr. and Javonte Payton, both of which who didn't really put up. Velus Jones put up 800 yards, so that's obviously going to be a tough loss there. Payton really didn't put up near as many, with 400 yards and 6 touchdowns last season. But what really matters is Cedric Tillman. If he can stay healthy, and if he can keep getting better, which I expect him to, Tillman could be one of the best receivers in the SEC. He already was last season, putting up over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. So, this offense looks really good going to next season. I like how Tennessee's looking. This is a good football team going to next season. And if Hendon Hooker keeps getting better, Tennessee could be a dark horse contender, very much a dark horse contender in the SEC going to next season. So there's potential here. And if you look at the SEC East, it obviously is not. The SEC in general is just, it's a brutal conference. You got Alabama and Georgia at the top every year. Georgia, the defending national champs. I've got them winning the SEC East. I'm not going to hold back. I'll just say that outright. I've got Georgia going either 11-1 or 12-0. And Tennessee next season, I mean, though the Vols could definitely get 10 wins next year, I mean, I just don't see Tennessee beating out Georgia for that SEC East. But I think, I mean, the second place in the SEC East is definitely up for grabs, and I feel like Tennessee could really stir up and cause some noise in the SEC next season. They could pull off a couple of, I'd say, big upsets next year. But looking at your transfer portal and recruiting now going to next season, of course, you got Cam Marley, our receivers in the transfer portal. Not really too many significant moves in the transfer portal for Tennessee. You can't forget about Joseph, linebacker, off to Florida Atlantic. You got Gerald Mincey coming in. Well, actually, he's going to be a key player. Offensive tackle from Florida. Jackson Hanna, linebacker from Nebraska. You got Charlie Browder, tight end from UCF. Wesley Walker, safety, coming in from Georgia Tech. You lose Aaron Willis, linebacker, to Houston, but you bring in Andre Turrentine, defensive back from Ohio State. Recruiting wise, 18th in the nation, 8th in the SEC, so overall pretty good. You got 8 4-stars coming in and 14 3-stars. But let's look at your schedule now going to next season, which definitely a very interesting schedule. You got Ball State in week 1, then you got Pitt on the road, which Pitt next season, I don't expect them to be quite as good in 2022, even though there is potential out of the Panthers to potentially be one of the top teams in the ACC again. I don't see them winning another ACC title next season, but I do think, I mean, Pitt is going to be in that 8 to 10 win range, maybe that 7 to 9 win range next season. So that's not going to be an easy game there. But then you got Florida to finish at your September. You got your bye week, and then LSU on the road, Alabama coming to town, UT Martin, and then you got Kentucky at home to finish out October. And in November, you got Georgia on the road, Missouri at home, South Carolina on the road, and then Vanderbilt on the road to finish out the season. So you're on the road 3 of your last 4 games, but you are at home for most of your October and, of course, in September, other than that road trip to Pitt. But looking at September here, you got Ball State, easy win. Pitt on the road. You're going to beat Pitt this season, I do think. I mean, Pittsburgh with all their changes. I mean, Kenny Pickett's now gone. And I feel like Kenny Pickett was, I mean, he was a big reason why Pitt was such a good team last season. I mean, he had an outstanding season for the Panthers. And, I mean, you think about it, I mean, that was quite a matchup last year between Kenny Pickett and Hendon Hooker. Both quarterbacks really didn't look like big standout quarterbacks going into 2021, but turns out both quarterbacks really had great seasons. Akron, easy win. Then Florida, you're going to beat them. The Gators kind of in a rebuild phase right now. So you're 4-0 heading into October. I'm pretty confident you get 3 or 4 wins out of your September. I mean, if you go 4-0, you're probably going to be ranked in, I'd say, top 20, top 15 heading into October. I'd say probably top 15 is pretty comfortable going on the road to Pitt, beating them, and if you beat Florida. So, I mean, that puts you in a pretty good position going into a pretty tough October. LSU, that is a toss-up game. I'm actually going to favor LSU in that one. I think, I mean, that's very tough because I think Tennessee talent-wise is better than LSU, but I think that's a game that you slip up in. LSU is a tough place to play, and the Tigers do steal a win from you. And then Alabama, that's a game that I actually think Tennessee could pull that one off. I mean, they got it at home. This is a team that's got some experience going to next season. They're going to be talented. I mean, they could very well go on to upset Alabama in that game. That would not surprise me. But I am going to favor the Crimson Tide. I'm more confident picking with Alabama there. So, I mean, I would consider doing something crazy and picking Tennessee, but we'll see what happens. Right now, I'm going to favor Alabama, though. UT Martin, easy win. Kentucky at home, you're going to beat them. You beat them last season. You'll do it again. You got them at home, which Kentucky, they're going to be a good team once again next year, too. I could see them in the 8 to 10 win range in the SEC East. So, yeah, they're certainly not going to be an easy team to beat, but I definitely think, I mean, yeah, Tennessee, Kentucky are my number 2 and number 3 in the SEC East going to next season. And so you're 6-2 heading into November. You got Georgia on the road. I'm going to favor the Bulldogs there. And then you got Missouri at home. I'm going to put that in yellow, but I'm definitely going to favor Tennessee there. South Carolina on the road. Now, the Gamecocks next season are kind of a wild card team in the SEC East. I feel like they're going to be in the 6 to 8 win range. They're going to get to a bowl game, and I think they steal a win off of you there too. But once again, those LSU and South Carolina games, both extremely winnable. I mean, you could, if you win both of those games, which you very well could, and you just lose to Alabama and Georgia on the road, that puts you at 10 wins, which I think 10 wins is very much within reason for Tennessee next season. So, I mean, I've got you at 8-4. I think 9 wins is also very reasonable if you beat either South Carolina or LSU in the end. So we'll see what happens. But I've got 8-4 for Tennessee right now. And of course, Vanderbilt on the road, easy win there. So I'm not concerned about that one bit. But let me know your thoughts and comments below on Tennessee. I appreciate you guys watching as always. Now I've got 8-4 for the Vols. But once again, let me know your thoughts and comments below. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.